Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Marilisa. I'm the girl behind The Girl Meets Yarn, and today I'm going to talk all about my first ever finished knitted sweater, which I am wearing, by the way, and I love it. Today I'm going to talk about what skills I had before I finished this one, what trials and error happened before, what I knitted and finished before I decided to make my first garment, the process, what I learned through it, and you know, several years later, how I still feel about the sweater, and if I will ever knit it again. So if something is that you want to hear, then keep on watching. So as you can tell, I'm waiting for my hair to get dry, so you will see it dry. We will see it dry together. I got ready for the day and I decided that I was going to wear this sweater that I pulled from the bins of sweaters that I have stored now in my closet. And now that I live in Texas, I'm a little worried of moth, so I make sure that everything is on a box, sealed and stored away. I pulled this one out after a couple years not being used it, and I instantly fell in love with it again. This is the Abruzzo sweater by We Are Knitters. This is a kit. It comes with the yarn, the needles, the pattern. You have even like a needle to weave the ends, a label, the packaging, all that. I had so many bad experiences before I landed on this kit or this website that I thought, why not just let somebody does the picking for me, and I just pick the colors that I want for my sweater, and then just everything is sent to me. I don't have to do any other browsing, just this everything that is on this kit. This is a French style inspired sweater. It's like a drop shoulder, kind of like really wide boat neck sweater. Is that Breton stripe kind of like aesthetic. If you don't know what that is, the Breton stripe uniform is used. It was used by the French army, the Navy, and apparently, what I read about it, it's 21 stripes for every victory of Napoleon, and it was made fashionable by Coco Chanel when she introduced it to the world in her resort collection in 1917. So it's been used forever. Artists, struggling artists, movie stars, every French person I guess have one of these, and it's just a classic. It just never gets out of style. So for me, when I always like this style. I think I have talked about this several times since the beginning of my channel, and I want to make actually for this summer something similar with some cables. It's always in style. It's been in style for a century. This one is knitted topped down in pieces. I don't know if I said that. And at the moment I thought that was a great idea, and to this day I think it's the best way to learn your stitches. I think I had so many it taught me so much about my tension, about patience, about so much piecing, and actually the thing that I learned from it is just like embrace the mistakes and wear them with pride. But before I start talking about the process, I want to do like a prequel of what I have knitted before I decided to make a garment, because I have so many people ask me what kind of sweater you think, or sweater pattern it's best for a beginner. And I will have to say I never have like a clear answer, because I think a pattern is just like a personal choice. Sweaters are an investment. I think I read once that like the average time of knitting a sweater is 120 hours to 150 hours. I think that may be an exaggeration, but I actually think I spend more time than that in this sweater. You know, it depends on the speed and stuff like that. And also, I think, you know, some people have a little bit of hard time picking what they want, because they want it to be perfect, because it's an investment in money and time, and also it's more of a personal choice or style, what you want to wear and what you need. So for me, it's always a little iffy to give you a suggestion, although I'm going to give you some suggestions. What I knew about knitting before this was very little. I made this in 2017. It's 6 years old, and to this day I wear it with pride. I love it. I learned to knit in 2014. So I am not a knitter who have been knitting forever. I am a very young knitter. But when I decided to start knitting, I called my local yarn shop on a Monday and I said, hey, I want to learn how to knit, and they didn't have classes available, but the shop owner said that you know, they are very slow during the week, so if I come in tomorrow, you know, for 2 hours, she can do like every, I think it was like I call it Tuesday and it was like a Wednesday, something like that. So she suggested that I, you know, come in for 4 classes and we will make a project and all that. That first time I went there, I fell in love with everything that you can find in a local yarn shop. The aesthetic was so pleasing. It was just like so cozy. And the first thing that we worked on was my Ravelry username. So before I picked anything, she wanted me to have a Ravelry and also start pinning on Pinterest. And I'm one of those that pin more physical. Like I would like to print and then put it on my corkboard in my wall than pinning digitally. But my daughter is the reverse, right? Like she feels like printing something is like killing a tree, which probably is. But I like to have inspiration on my mood board at all times. So that's the first thing that I learned. And then we move into casting on, and then by the end of the day, the end of that class, the first class, I was already knitted. So I went home and I ripped it and I made it a couple times just to perfect the technique. And then the next time I came in, I did the purling, and then just by class number 3 I was done with the hat. So we work on some other things like cable, so I knew how to make a cable needle and all that. The only thing that I wish will have made my experience better was to experience different knitting techniques. There's so many ways that you can knit. There's the more, you know, kind of popular is the English style, or a thrower, and the continental. So she taught me how to throw or be an English style knitter, and I did it, and I did it beautifully. But I was so tight that it was so painful for my hands. I couldn't get the needle through to do the throw. When I was throwing and like passing, you know, the yarn through, it was so tight. It was like holding so tight that it was a battle. But although it was a battle, I did like 3 or 4 hats, but I'm not a hat wearer, and I was living in Arkansas at the moment, so I was not using them a lot. So I got bored right away. If you know me, I'm not a scarf person, and now I'm becoming a sock knitter. So what else is to do is not knit or knit a garment. So I went right away after 4 hats, I believe, went ahead and decided to try a garment. I went on Pinterest, and to my surprise, and I was very ignorant, and I have no problem saying this, I was quite ignorant that there are so many amazing patterns out there that are kind of like trendy, that I was kind of like, you know, excited to try. And one of the one that actually opened my eyes, and I was like, this is the one I want to go full force, was the Mayu by Espastico, and I'm going to place a picture here. I loved this design. To this day, I want to knit this for sure. I need to put it back up in my queue. I need to print this picture, put it in my mood board, and work for it in the autumn. To this day, it's classic. And then I went through the website, their website, and their Ravelry, Espastico, and I found that there were so many patterns that were amazing, at the same time were free. So that is one resource that I will say if you're trying to get, you know, or try to make your first sweater. This Espastico, they have a couple, but I made the Missoni Accomplish sweater, and I think that sweater is a great beginner pattern because you have no short rows, so you have a couple of increases and that's it. So I went to my local yarn shop and I bought the wrong yarn. I thought, I was naive and ignorant in that also, that I didn't know about different weight in yarn, and I also was not clear of what kind of fabric I wanted to make. I didn't know that wool make like a more soft fabric, that if I wanted more kind of like definition, cotton was my friend, and if I wanted like a very luscious drape, cashmere will be my thing. I didn't know any of that, but I went with alpaca for that Mayu, and it was I got a light fingering yarn instead of the yarn that it looks for, which a little, or like she made it with, which is more like a rustic, heavier fingering. So I went home with $100 worth of yarn that I had it all wined because I didn't ask for the return policy. And that's one thing that I want you to, if you have never knitted before or you're very new, check different yarns. Really make the time to ask yourself, what do you really want? Do you want something really soft? Do you want to use it in the winter? Do you want to use it in the summer? What do you want? And then do your research. I also would suggest that you ask for the return policy, because for me, like I said, I had it all winded, and then when you have the yarn wind, you cannot return it. And they always ask you, do you want this to be wined? Always ask if this doesn't work, can I return if it's winded? They will probably say no. I have just one store that I went in Seattle, in Capitol Hill. I cannot remember the name. I'll put it in the screen, but this store had so much cashmere. It's in Capitol Hill. I've never been into Capitol Hill. Yeah, there's money there. But she has a test ball for every single brand and weight that she owns, and then you have different needles. You can sit with these tables that are right in the middle of the store, and you can try to see if you like the yarn. So whenever you buy something, you already tested, and you know, you can have it wine and all that. And I love that approach, right? Just to have people come in and just try it. So going back to the yarn, do your research, ask for that policy, and you know the fiber that you want and what kind of finish item you want. So I went back home with my yarn, my light fingering, and I started to cast on this Mayu, and it didn't work. I went to a store, they declined to return my yarn, and I was livid. I let my knitting drop, and I didn't knit for, I don't know, like a couple months. I was so mad. So I went online and I found this kit, and I bought two. I bought one that had sit stitch short sleeve, the same yarn. This is cotton, and I bought this as well. So I bought 2 kits. I started making the first one, but if I go back to being an English knitter or a continental knitter, at the beginning I was an English knitter, and I was trying to go back and forth, right, on, you know, and I thought the sit stitch was going to be better because I was going to have that knit and purl, but I was so tight, and it was such a battle that it was not vibing with me. My hands were so cramped. It was so bad. So I went at the beginning of 2017 to Ohio because I did my advanced teacher training there. I did my 300 hours in Ohio with a very famous yoga teacher, and I was staying with the California guys. They were all like, you know, like fancy yoga teachers. And I wanted something to do because I knew I was not, I'm like with grandma. I got to bed like at 9, okay? I will make them dinner, and I was like, we were like, but to my surprise, we were all in bed by 9. The California kids as well. Anyway, so first week of that training, it was a 4-week thing. First week thing, you know, I was battling through this sweater, and the second week, this chick came in, and she was like so cool, and she was a little introvert. So, you know, I say hi, and she was a little like whatever, but during, you know, the day, she kind of like warm up to us, and the first thing, and I'm gonna introduce her, a video of her, she was like, what are you doing? Hold on, let me. Okay, super slow.
I think that was the big thing for me. Like this week.
Okay.
So it's, oh, this is such slippery yarn too. So I bring the yarn in the front and wrap it around. Oh, Lord.
There you go. So it's like nothing.
Yeah, it's just a much smaller movement. And you can kind of get in where you're just twisting your hands.
Okay.
And catching the yarn, so you're not.
Got it. And I'm like, I'm knitting. And she goes like, let me see. And then she pulls out this veil that she was knitting. She was knitting this veil for her best friend's wedding to use on, of course, in her hair. And she was using lace weight yarn and making this lace veil for her friend. And I was like, I mean, what are you doing? So she was interested to see what I was knitting, and you know, and how to build community. Like, knitting builds community. Like, we need knitters unite. So she saw how I was struggling, and she goes like, well, you need to change into continental, girl. And then she showed me, and I'm gonna introduce the video here, how to knit and purl continental style. And for me, it was like night and day. It made my life so easy, and I fell in love hard with knitting, because it was night and day. My hands were not cramping, and you know, it was something. So always, and every time I say this story to people, if you want to teach somebody to knit, let them know that there's more than one style of knitting. Actually, there's more than 2. There's not only English or continental, there's like Portuguese. There's so many, and you will never know which one you will vibe more with. So I loved continental, and I finished this sweater. So I did one, it was in pieces as well. The front was done English style, and then the back was done with the middle, like, you know, half English, and then the end, or I would say no, like 25% English and then 75% continental. And when I went to piece it out, or piece it together. No, piece it together. The front, which it was the English style, was this small, and then the continental was this long. And I was like, listen, Marilisa, looking at the mirror, you're not gonna knit this again. So we're gonna like frog this. So I frogged it out and I left, like sent it to my mom. And I think she's hoarding the yarn because that's all she does. She wants all the yarn all the time. And she has this closet full of yarn that she never wears or uses or anything, okay? But she just like look at it. I don't think she even looks at it because it's in baskets. Anyway, so that was my experience before starting with this sweater. We need a water break. So after failing twice to finish, cast on, all that, I decided to knit this sweater. And I am not kidding. Just because it's cotton, it was an ordeal. And I will say, if you are a person with my personality, that it's not afraid of a challenge. Cotton can be a great way to learn how to work your tension, how to troubleshoot, all that. So if I'm going to talk about yarn, this yarn, like I said, is cotton. I took a class with Patty Larian, and she said once that wool is your grandmother. And I'm going to just do this analogy. Wool is your grandmother, right? Whatever you do, it's gonna be good in her eyes. So if you messed up a little bit here or there, it will like even it out. Cotton is your mom, right? It doesn't matter what, you will see whatever mistake you're making. And it's the best analogy ever, because that's so true. But I think because I started and I pushed through and I knit this in cotton, made me realize a lot of things that helped me later on. For instance, because it's knitted back and forth, I always love to knit but not to purl, right? I think everybody has the same problem, and people make all these adjustments to make it in the round. But for me, because I was a beginner and I was not kind of like, you know, set up in any kind of style, or I didn't hear too much of anything that anybody said, I pushed through and I learned a lot on how to knit properly and then purl properly, and then actually enjoy purling. To this day, I can do a sweater back and forth and I will complain, because we all complain, but I don't shy away of a pattern because it has a little purling or some purling or a lot of purling, okay? I don't shy away. Because it was knitted in pieces also, there was a lot of tension issues, because when, I don't know if you have that problem of the laddering, so one row is kind of tight and the other one is kind of looser, so it looks like a lot of laddering. I have a lot of that in there, and I don't know if you can tell. And I noticed right away and I adjusted. So why, when, what, and I work on my tension. So right from the beginning, I was working in this kind of muscle memory things that we fall to that are really difficult to get out of later on, and it requires a lot of exercise. I work with it right away because I've been making my garments for a long time. I know that, okay, this stitch may not look perfect, but the overall will compensate for that mistake. So I have learned to fail so many times that if I fail in this row, it was not too bad that it will make me abandon the sweater. And I think that also was a very key learning curve right by the beginning. So so that's what I have to say about the yarn. That's all that I learned. When I opened the kit, if I'm going to talk about needles now, the kit came in with those straight needles, right? And I thought they were the cutest. I pay extra for those needles, by the way. And I, to this day, they're somewhere. I love them, and I find them so, I don't know, every time I see straight needles, I feel like they are underappreciated, and actually they are not, you cannot move with them too much. Like, they take a lot of space, right? Like, they're stiff. So I learned right away that they were a hassle. So I moved into circular needles, and I bought a very cheap Clover, I think it was, needles, and it was smooth to work with this fabric, but it was a little grippy. I was like I have a little bit of issues, but my tension was being worked with, and I think also that helped me take a moment to actually see the stitches and then kind of like adjust at the moment. Then I went to my LYL local yarn shop, and of course, you know, you want to get like the fancy needles right when you have, you know, 2 hours of knitting. You really kind of bad. I'm like, I'm bad. I'm gonna get like the bougie needles. So I went and I got some Addies, and I switched this cotton fabric to, or this cotton yarn to this metal needles, and that was a disaster. You can see that on my tension on this sweater, and I was like, no, it's not working, it's not working. So right at the beginning of my knitting journey, I knew that what worked for me depending on the fiber. And if you know, you know, would work better with cotton. It's a little bit grippier. Metal works better with wool. And in my case, I made the Snowy Forest sweater last year, and I was having a little bit issues with both, with wood and with the metal. I was using a mohair only yarn. It was a worsted weight mohair yarn, and I found that acrylic was better. So to this day, I give myself permission to switch around through the project, and also not being a snob and be like, oh, I can only knit with Addies. I want to incorporate acrylic, and that Snowy Forest was light and day when I introduced the acrylic needles. So a lot of testing happened with this sweater that to this day I use and utilize whenever I'm working on a project. So I'm never too hung up on one style. So I changed that back and forth, and you know, it's important to know what works better and then what works better for you. So that's it. When I finished all the 4 pieces, I went into piecing them together, and that was awful. It was so so bad to this day. I look at it and I'm like, but at the same time, I later on learned how to do it properly, and I have thought about, you know, just doing this again and piecing it out again. That is, it looks more seamless, but at the same time, I will not have that reminder that I have gone this far away and I have progressed this much. If I take that reminder that I still love and I still wear, that is the sweater. So I have to say, I am thankful for this sweater. I am thankful for people who thought about doing the work for me, right? Having those kits. I think kits are perfect if you have a new knitter, and everything is in there. If you are a yarn owner or like a dyer, or you own a yarn shop, listen, educate, and you know, just give your time impatient to these new knitters that one bad experience with let them just drop it. I am thankful to this day to the girls from Espastrico and Marilisa, to be honest, that she was doing these amazing patterns with tons and tons and tons of information, very professional. I didn't know how to read a pattern, and with this sweater I learned how to be just organized, disciplined, and follow instructions. And I think also with these other sweaters that I have done that are free, like I was saying, I'm so thankful for them for putting stuff out there that are worth it. They're not, I have downloaded patterns that are free that you're like, what is going on? But they have put the effort, and they have done it for the art of knitting, and to pass the art down that is actually it has to be mentioned. I think I needed to take a moment to say thank you. And I'm thankful for the people who put the effort and put it out there. And I know sometimes it's a hook and you know what, but I think also just having that resources out there for people like me. If I have not found this Mayu sweater, I will not be here where I am right now, because that gave me all the power and all the fuel to say, I want that. I want that made with my own hands, and I'm gonna be proud of it, okay? And I will wear it, and it's just like so appealing and so classic and so beautiful that I want it. I want it now, and I'm going to do it. And after seeing that sweater, everything that I put into it was just my will to finish, and to finish whatever I have done after that. To reply to the answer, or the question, to reply to the question that I have gotten so many times about what patterns I will suggest for a beginner, I will without doubt say that a boxy piece out sweater will be best, because boxy sweater is just kind of forgiving, right? Like you have very little shape, at the same time it's kind of like trendy, and yeah, it's just not too much fuss to it. If you are thinking that you need all this stitches under your belt to be able to make a sweater, I will tell you that you don't, okay? I've been knitting for 9 years, and I know people who have been knitting for way more than I've been knitting, and they go to YouTube to refresh their mind about a stitch. So even if you think that you need to know everything to make a sweater, don't. My second sweater, my second finished sweater, was a lace colorwork sweater. Okay, I didn't know how to make a lace. I didn't know how to search on YouTube. I think you're in the perfect space to learn anything that is required for a pattern, and what better to go on YouTube and search for whatever. I do this to this day. I don't remember any cast on or cast off. And like right now I have a sweater that I have to finish like the cuff, and I did the hem with the same technique, and I don't remember. To go and re-watch it and redo it so I can finish the sleeve, so I can move to the second one and then finish the sweater. But that's it. I would say start with a boxy, or also start with something that has no short rows. Short rows are something to this day I'm trying to master them. There's a technique involved, and quite honestly, when I am knitting something and I'm doing short rows, when I go ahead and I block the sweater, they just kind of like blend, and I will see them. I will be like, well, that's the short row, but I did a short row. Who cares? Okay, like very little people know how to make their own clothes, so be proud of whatever comes out of your hands, because you made it. Okay, let's stop comparing ourselves to mechanical knitting, you know, and just appreciate sweaters for what they are. They're handmade. Handmade things that are made by hand have errors. Mechanical things have errors as well, but that is just your stamp. I think like that's your sprinkle. That mistake is your own sprinkle. Anyway, that's it. Will I knit this? Yes. Will I knit it in pieces? Hell yeah. Will I knit another Breton sweater? Yes, it's happening this summer for sure. I want like lace, and I have this pattern that I bought a couple years ago, and I started making it, and I didn't know how to follow. I made it like too big, whatever. We will talk about this later on, but if I will make this, yes, I still wear it, and it's chic as fuck, so sorry. I have to mess it up. I have to mess the video somehow. Anyway, that's it. I love this sweater, and I love that it's gonna be hanging in my YouTube as a reminder that I made it, and I'm proud. Have a nice time. Until the next. Take care. Bye.